Hal Jordan the Green Lantern Corps is ending, and the Sandman Universe is just beginning. Find out what to read from DC this week by clicking here. Hey guys, welcome back to this week's Puller, as Josh would always like to say.
What are we reading?
And DC has a pretty full slate, so we are going to get straight into it with Superman issue 2 from Bendis and Ivan Reyes. And I gotta say, guys, this is easily the worst Superman issue by Bendis I have read thus far. Josh?
Agreed. It doesn't even feel like Bendis.
No, this thing it's such a jumbled mess. It goes from narration from Superman to Rogol Zard. You have no idea who's talking at some point. I'm pretty sure Nuclear Man from Superman: A Quest for Peace ends up making an appearance in this. And although Rogol Zard beats the shit out of him, I just couldn't get over the fact that Bendis made the conscious decision to put this guy in a comic book.
Hey, I mean, kudos to him for pulling somebody out of pulp culture somewhere that
And
nobody else has the balls to put in a book.
In one of the worst Superman movies ever made, probably.
Agreed. But that's the whole point, though, right?
I mean, right, it is. It was a little fan servicey thing, but it was still just very jarring. And I gotta say, Bendis also doesn't seem to know how to write for some of these other characters. Like, this is the worst one. I don't know if you were talking about it was either Barry or Wally. We couldn't really tell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when it comes down to the drawing of the Flash without a mask on, you can't tell if it's Barry or Wally.
I mean, he's in Wally's suit, or he's in Barry's suit, so we have to assume it's Barry. But he's got red hair.
But he's been addressed and been answering to Barry the whole time.
Yeah, I know, but he's also got red hair like Wally. I don't know. But the way he writes for Barry, not good. The way he wrote for Batman at one point, talking about how he's basically shitting his pants, that bugged me. That he's like, I'm uncomfortable in my bowels. I go, Batman would never fucking say that. He would never fucking say that.
Discomfort in my chest and my bowels.
Yeah, and then Superman. There's a couple times where Bendis seems to he's attempting to try and write something that has a good message that wants to shed light on an aspect of Superman that we never really thought about before, and then he just shies away from it. Like, it happens like 2 times in this book. But I don't know, guys. I was not really a fan of this issue. This is, like I said, by far the worst issue of Superman by Bendis I've read so far. The only thing I'm digging right now is Ivan Reyes on the art, and then the pages again are not that high gloss, but they're that matted kind of 90s feel to the pages. So yeah. I like that. But other than that, I have not a lot of praise for this book.
Yeah, like I said, I've read a lot of bad Bendis, and I've read a lot of good Bendis, and this didn't even feel like bad Bendis. Like, it didn't feel like it felt like it was a middle schooler trying to like finding out that he needed like 1,000 more words for his essay, so he just like puts in a bunch of random shit and repeats himself repetitively, and it didn't even have that feeling of Bendis's. Like, if Bendis was the one honestly truly writing this, his mind was not set on this. Like, he was focused on something else.
This is like having a ghostwriter. The other thing too is this Superman series and this Action Comic series, they don't seem to be happening simultaneously. I don't understand how these things are going concurrently, but what's happening in Superman is not happening in Action Comics either, which to me is a little bothersome. Why have the same writer writing both if they're not going to intersect once in a while? But anyway, unveiling our new rating system for this episode, I'm going to give Superman issue 2 1.75 unicorn fights.
I give it a 1.75 unicorn fights as well.
Yeah, not good. All right, Josh, you read Catwoman issue number 2.
Yep, Catwoman issue number 2. It's done by Jones and Allred. Was that Allred? My bad. Sorry. I read the first issue. First issue was great. This is the artwork and the coloring in this book is fantastic. It's continuing off this whole idea of a copycat, and it also addresses the way Catwoman's been feeling after the not marriage of
not
her.
Wedding.
Yeah, the not wedding, the not actual event.
Yeah.
But man, this book is actually surprisingly really good. I did not think I would like Catwoman, and this issue just kind of furthers on. It has a great variant cover, which you can see on the screen, and it has a great regular cover too. I mean, the regular cover's fantastic. But this book, just all around, was really surprisingly good for me, and I love, like I said, I love not just the artwork, but the coloring in it. The writing for it was perfect. I give this, I give it about 3.25
Unicorn fights?
Unicorn fights.
All right. Speaking of great variant covers, I'm going on to Hawkman issue 3 by Robert Venditti and Brian Hitch. And I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this series. It's kind of like you take Hawkman, but you mix it with a little Nathan Drake or a little Tomb Raider feel, or a little Indiana Jones, if you will. And it's actually a fun little read. It's basically Hawkman just trying to figure out his past, where he came from. Every time he's reincarnated, he loses more and more of his memory of his past lives, and apparently one of his past lives has left clues for him to remember, and he's trying to figure out this thing. So it's a lot of fun. I gotta say, I'm not usually a big fan of Brian Hitch on his art, but it's working for this book. It's really working well, and I've never really cared about Hawkman. I've never cared about Carter Hall, but this series makes me care, and it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's a lot of jungle adventures, it's a lot of mystery, it's a lot of archaeology. So it's Nathan Drake, Indiana Jones meets superhero world. A lot of fun. Giving it 3.25 unicorn fights.
All right, cool.
And then we're going to move on to Titans number 24, which we're kind of treating like an issue 2 because there's the new team that came on and there's a new roster.
I'm pretty sure that this has a different artist on it than
it
23
does.
did.
It does. This one is Dan Abnett and Peoples. P-E-E-P. So it's Brent Peoples. And this one to me felt like an anime. It felt like an episode or a cartoon of anime, like Dragon Ball Z or something that I'd watch. It's really outlandish. It's really goofy. It makes me take the Dark Knight Metal series even less serious.
I feel the same thing about the anime, but I feel like it takes not just like from any anime. I'm saying like just that when you think of like a fight scene in an anime, like a little fight scene with a bunch of team members and stuff in an anime, this is exactly what this whole book is. It's not like it's just like a whole episode of anime. It's just that fight scene that's a stereotypical fight scene that you've seen millions of times before.
Oh, for me, it's more like the weird characters that have this like really weird design. They're goofy. They're a little offbeat. Everyone kind of reacts to them the same way. They've got this unconventional look to them. There's all this kind of misplaced humor. The Titans themselves aren't taking this thing too seriously. Like I said, the character design behind these monsters and things that are fighting, it feels like something like a couple filler episodes of an anime like Dragon Ball Z or something like that.
Yeah, well, to me, it's not even really so much the character design, but mostly the dialogue.
Yeah.
A lot of the dialogue is like there's supposed to be humor placed in certain places where in normal Titans books it wouldn't be placed. And it's actually it just doesn't really land very well for me.
Right, and the fact that the Titans are supposed to be like the first responders to anything that's been created from the Source Wall breach and, dealing with the new metahumans that are being created out of this book does not make me take that very seriously with the shit that they've been doing the past couple issues. So, I don't know. And the ending was completely predictable. It's something that we've seen a million times in a million other stories being told. So, unfortunately, Dan Abnett is doing a great job with Aquaman, but this Titans thing is not doing it for me so well. So, I'm going to give it same thing with Superman, 1.75 unicorn fights.
Oh, I give it well, you know what? Yeah. No, I'm going to give it 1.5 unicorn fights.
Oh, wow. So even less than Superman.
Yeah, I mean, at least with... There was a point when I was reading this where I was actually wanting to just stop reading it. Matter of fact, right before I opened up the first page and I was like, I really think I'm just not going to
Other than the art, I felt the same way.
The art wasn't bad. It's just, I don't know. It was a very forgettable issue. At least with Superman, I won't forget about how bad it was.
Yeah. But, all right, Josh, you want to move on to?
Yeah, I read Flash 52 by Josh Williamson, and the artist is actually one I'm not 100% familiar with, Kristen Deuce.
Dolce?
Yeah,
it's...
Dolce?
Oh, no, never mind. I thought it was an L. Never mind. No, you're good.
No,
Deuce, yeah.
Deuces. Okay, so for starters, the paper is that 90s gridded matted fill, and I love it. And it goes perfect with this artwork. Kristen Deuce is an amazing artist. So I'm surprised I've never actually even heard of it.
Yeah, as soon as you open that up, that first page of Barry, I was like, I want an action figure in that style.
Yes, yeah. And one of my favorite things in this whole issue, Bizarro Flash. Yeah, Bizarro Flash. I didn't want to spoil it for you, but I had to go ahead and just pull it out. And this just kind of continues off of the Flash Wars with...
Wally.
Well, not with Wally, but with Wally in it. But it continues off of that, and Barry is teaming up with Captain Cold, but it's Captain Cold, not the same Snart that we know. obviously, like the television show.
I was about to say.
That's my biggest problem with this Flash issue is a lot of stuff parallels with the TV show. But Williamson does a good job at making it not feel forced or feel like he's just adding it in there because of that. It's just like, it's little things that you go, okay, well, of course, now we have a good Snart that's not from our world or from the main universe. It's a different Snart, and it's just a lot of little comparisons like that with Warden Wolf, and then you get Axel as Trickster in there. But all in all, though, this is a really good book, and I've never really been too disappointed with Williamson's Flash. There has been some dips, but this definitely is one of the pickup moments. And I really enjoyed this issue, along with the art, just made it fantastic. I mean, it was great. So I actually give this 3.5 unicorn fights.
All right. Now I'm going to move on to Robert Venditti and Sandoval's last issue on Hal Jordan the Green Lantern's issue 50. You guys can check out that picture we put up. That I absolutely love that variant cover. But
a good one.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I think this series started off so much stronger than it ended. I think it ended pretty well. The Dark Stars arc is pretty neat, but there's a lot of things that went unexplored that kind of bummed me out. At the very end, it says it never ends, right? Never the end or something like that, and I don't know. Yeah, never the end. And the art's fantastic. Venditti does a great job at writing for Hal. There are a couple moments of cheese and stuff, which is weird because especially in this issue, in the past arc with the Dark Stars, it's been Guy Gardner who's been getting a lot of the cheesy dialogue. But in the very beginning of the series, he made Guy Gardner the biggest badass of the entire Corps. I'm kind of wishing or longing for the days of the early arc when this was just a badass book, and it took the Green Lanterns and did some stuff that we just never seen him do. It became a little bit more of a straightforward Green Lantern series, which kind of I saw it losing its nuance that it had from the beginning to now. Things like teaming up with Zod and Hector Hammond, though, I thought these would be some really good wild cards that would make for some really good foils to the plans and stuff, but everything mostly just went off without a hitch, and again, it had a pretty predictable ending. But I am interested to see where Hal Jordan or the Green Lantern series goes after this. I know Grant Morrison is coming on to do a Green Lantern series. I don't know if there's going to be anything running side by side with that, or if he's going to be picking up where this leaves off. Not really sure, but I'm going to do something different here. Because this is the last issue in an entire run, I'm going to grade the issue, and then I'm going to grade the series as a whole. So, for just this issue, I'm going to give it 2.75 unicorn fights. It wasn't a bad issue. It's definitely above a 50% for me, but it just didn't really hammer it home the way I wanted it. But overall, as a series, I got to say 3.75 unicorn fights. It doesn't quite live up to Jeff Johns' first couple runs, but I'd say it's better than the New 52 stuff.
All right. Me and Jake both read Plastic Man #3 of a 6-issue miniseries by Gail Simone and Adriana Mello. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I am really surprised by this series. I am enjoying it a lot more than what I thought.
I think you're really more surprised at the fact that it's Gail Simone writing this.
That too. I mean, it does. There's only a couple moments where I get this and I'm like, well, it's Gail Simone, so I'm gonna expect that to be said. But for the most part, I mean, she's. I'm surprised in multiple areas with the writing. I mean, there's some raunchier stuff that's being said. Jokes upon, just sexuality,
objectification of women,
and it doesn't really feel very Gail Simone, but she is doing a great job on this book. I enjoy this book. I think it's a fantastic storyline, and I like it. Actually makes me like Plastic Man, which I never really cared about. Plastic Man
I always
before.
thought he was a joke, but this is a fun. I can't lie. This is a fun little 3-issue thing. My only real detriment to the series is that it seems to lose focus on what the story's actually about.
Yeah.
It seems be about halfway through every new issue that's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get back to this whole Justice League thing we've been kind of setting up. But other than that, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, they take a little bit. Every issue, I will agree. That's my only problem I have with this with these books is that you have all this chunk where it's really fun and everything. And it's like a little bit in the beginning and then very little at the end. Yeah. They actually address this whole JLA thing.
Yeah.
And it's like this JLA caused the murder of these people. And it's like, okay, well, let's get a little bit more into that one.
Yeah, they just keep putting it on the back burner. And then we see Plastic Man kind of doing his 1940s gangster thing as a joke. It reminds me a little bit of Toontown.
Yeah.
And then also he's doing some, like I said, he's doing some detective work, which is a little bit of Toontown meets Batman. It has a very much a Who Framed Roger Rabbit feel to it.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, perfectly. And then also the great thing about this issue is an Alex Ross cover.
Oh man,
to just
I know.
top it off.
There was no need for a variant cover for this.
Oh
issue,
no, you don't need it. No, that's the other thing with the Alex Ross covers. Is like if you put Alex Ross on the main cover, why make a variant? At all?
That's exactly.
That's
what
the guy
they
you
said.
go for variants.
Yeah,
that's
that's your incentive copy variant right there.
With all that being said, I'm going to give my rating on this. I give it a 2.75 unicorn.
Oh wow, I'm actually surprised you didn't go higher. I'm enjoying this series, and I'm probably gonna go a little higher just because I'm so surprised when I heard about this series. I was like, fuck this thing, dude. This sounds so stupid. So anyway, the only other thing that I'm having trouble figuring out in this book is what time period it takes place in. But the thing is, I just don't think it's set in the DC universe right now. It's not supposed to be canon. So I'm going to let it sit on its own as its own thing. I'm going to go 3.25.
You're going 3.25?
3.25.
Man, is there something I missed in this?
No, 3.25 unicorn fights, though.
Yeah.
All right, and guys, the one issue I'm sure a lot of people were curious about, we are going to cover it. It is the Sandman Universe #1 by Neil Gaiman. Art, all sorts of different artists. Simon Spurrier, Nalo Hopkinson, Kate Howard, Dan Waters. It goes on and on. There's a lot of different artists, colorists, inkers on this book. But Josh, how do you feel about this?
Well, for starters, my knowledge on Sandman.
Mine is so fucking limited, I have none.
Yeah, see, mine is very, very limited. What I have ever read of Sandman has been from years ago. And so I just get this small little premise. So jumping into this, it was very... I was kind of lost at first.
I was very lost.
Yeah.
But you know what helped me? The fact that ravens just know these things.
Oh.
There's your guys' little hidden code phrase. You guys can come to us, get 20% off any issue that's not on your pull list this week. But yes, ravens just know these things.
Yeah, ravens just know these things. So you just slowly. So you were a raven at one point in your life.
Yeah, I was in a past life, just like Lucian.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, even though I don't know enough about Sandman, I kind of want to go back and read more Sandman now.
It's actually funny. I didn't even remember this book was coming out today. Mm-hmm. And yesterday in the mail, a buddy of mine from Washington sent me a bunch of comics. He's like, dude, you got to check these out. And one of them, there's like the first 4 volumes of Neil Gaiman's Sandman.
Oh, nice.
And so it's funny that this came out today. So for me, this is an introduction to the Sandman universe altogether. Yes. I know nothing about him. I've never read anything by by Neil Gaiman's Sandman. And so what I can glean from this is that there is like a dream universe or a dream world that when you go to sleep, everybody enters the dream world, and there's all these different gods and deities and all these other fictional characters and biblical characters that can enter these things, and they kind of monitor your dream world and your dreamscape and stuff.
So very a lot like
interesting. A little bit like Monkey Bone. It's a very interesting and very cerebral idea. I mean, Neil Gaiman, he likes to talk in kind of riddles and metaphors and allegories and stuff. So you really have to pay attention. This is the issue that I spent the most time with. I had to really sit down and read this and focus. This is definitely the issue that's the meatiest out of everything we've talked about today. I had to really, but it's something you can sink your teeth into. And I gotta say, man, it's a pleasure to look at because it's so different. Something about it reminds me of Constantine the movie a little bit. You know, there's a feeling of that, but blended with, I don't even know, like what's that movie? The movie with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise. And
Out of Sight? Vanilla Sky?
No, not Vanilla Sky. Not Out of Sight. It was where they go to like where he goes to the weird mask party thing, and it's like a group of
Eyes Wide Shut?
Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah, I got a weird Eyes Wide Shut vibe from this movie as well.
From
this book. I have to do this all the time.
No, it's understandable. I mean, it's very the way Neil Gaiman kind of writes, and and the artist that he usually picks for his work. It's very cinematic. I mean, and one thing that he is, and I just forgot how good he is with it, is writing dialogue.
Yeah, he's
for all different kinds of characters. I mean, like you can read them, and it's like no two characters sound the same.
No, not at all. You'd almost expect it was 2 different writers altogether.
Oh yeah.
But what I like about this book too is that it's the narrative is hard to follow because they're just like vignettes. It's like it's a little peek into this world. It's a little peek into this world. It's a little peek into this world, introducing all these different characters. Some I'm assuming are probably staples in the Sandman universe. Others I'm assuming are original characters that are just made for these books. But each one has a different artist on it, and the only thing that really ties it, weaves it all together, is this Raven that we're following. And I think it's so interesting to kind of bolster your book to a raven, a character that looks just like any other bird, but he also is probably the most interesting part to read.
Oh yeah, he really is, especially from the very first introduction of the character. He does definitely, the Raven actually does grab your attention, and you have no problem following the Raven throughout the rest of the story. The other thing that's really great is the Raven is perfectly woven. Is that the way?
Woven,
woven these stories together, because what you could tell is that all this book is just little snippets of each of these, because it's going to continue. This is going to continue off into 4 different stories, four different comics.
It's like 4 or 5 different ones.
Yeah, 4 or 5 different ones, which we already done our orders for them. But it's like 4 or 5 different stories of following these certain characters. And this Raven does a great job of just kind of woven these like characters together, where this doesn't feel like you're reading chunks of different things. Like it actually feels like one beautiful told.
Yeah, they're all
story.
kind of carrying the same idea behind them, which is basically Sandman is missing.
Yeah.
The Sandman, who is the god of dreams, that's the way they make it seem anyway. He's kind of like the god of the dreams. He's missing, and in the dream world, it's kind of fracturing there, and they're trying to figure out where everything's going. So yeah, it looks like there's going to be The Dreaming, House of Whispers, Lucifer, and Books of Magic. And I gotta say, based on this issue here, I'm actually most interested in reading Lucifer. That one seems the most interesting. Yeah, because I like the idea of taking a character that is biblical, that has been known throughout the ages, and you're going to put your own spin on him in the DC universe and tying him into this dream world. Yeah, that seems very interesting to me. And I'm very, very curious what can be done there. And I think Neil Gaiman is writing all of them. So, hell yeah, I'm totally on board with this. But this one, I will say, it's one of those books that you got to sit down, you got to read, you got to pay attention. Don't have a TV on in the background. Don't have your phone next to you. This is something you need to pay attention to, or you might miss something.
Well, since you asked me so nicely, the ones I'm actually looking more forward to is The Dreaming.
Okay.
It follows the, I'm guessing he was
Lucian, I think his name
Lucian.
was. Yeah.
And it's a new character that they introduced in here too.
Yeah, that girl who's got like feather wings on her.
Yeah.
You know.
And also Books of Magic. That last panel, that little bit, kind of has me intrigued by that.
All right. And so, Josh, how would you rate Sandman Universe issue 1?
I enjoyed it more than what I wish that I've known more about Sandman. I feel like I definitely would like this a lot more. But for the fact that I don't know a whole lot, and I'm still this intrigued by it, is even though I started off lost, and I still end up like going like, this is a good book, I'm glad I'm buying it. I'm gonna have to give it 3.25 unicorn fights.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you, man. This is something that I think if you're a Neil Gaiman Sandman fan, this is something that you should be chomping at the bit for, because I'm guessing there's a lot of stuff in here for you as a fan. If you know, a lot of these things are going to recall a few things from his past run. So for me, I have none of that, and I'm still very intrigued. I'm going to go a little lower, 3 unicorn fights. I'm pretty excited about this one.
All right.
Yeah, this looks like it can have a lot. I like the idea that there's a mythology behind it. So that's what interests me the most. But all right, guys, I think that is all we've got for you this week. Definitely check out the Marvel one. It's very few books that we go in depth on in there, but definitely check that one out. And if you guys have already done that, then we will see you guys next week. We appreciate you listening, and definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Love you.